So, welcome to the podcast, Mr. Kirk Potter. How are you, sir?
Very good, Rab, and great to meet you at last. I think we've conversed quite a few times online about various things, so it's good to
I have
good good
indeed.
to good to chat to you in person at last.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, if anything, first of all, by way of an introduction, do you want to tell folks who you are and why you're on this week's show?
Yeah, sure. I suppose in the pipe band world as a whole, I'm probably nobody to be perfectly frank in
No,
that
not at
sense.
all. Not at all.
Certainly as a player, I'm not, but I've been a snare drummer for a large number of years, and I'm also a software engineer. And what I've tried to do over the last 5 years or so is combine those two things together. My love of pipe bands and my love of building software. So I'm here today, I suppose, predominantly to talk about my latest project, which is pipebandscores.com.
Nice.
But I'm also responsible for the Ensemble pipe band score editing software,
Hmm.
and there was a couple of predecessor products I had to that, which kind of came before Ensemble came along. So that's what we're
Well,
here to talk about.
I have to say, first of all, Ensemble, full congratulations on being a Big Rab Show award winner.
Yes, thank you very much.
Woo, there you go. But
Very pleased with
yeah,
that.
it was by popular demand, really. You seem to receive a wealth of nominations and also a wealth of votes as well. Quite a popular product. So if we'll get actually a quick juke at the website here, just by the magic of Zoom, for those of you watching the video right now. But yeah, tell us about Ensemble. How did this all start?
I think we have to go back probably quite far, probably even 20 plus years. So, as a
Mm,
snare drummer and as a person that's been involved in technology, I was very keen very early on to try and write some drum scores
mhm.
using software. The very first product I ever used was Drumscribe, which is still
Yes.
around, or Drumscribe as some people know it,
Hmm.
which is still around today.
Hmm.
Albeit I don't think it's been updated in a number of years. And I think way back then, I suppose I got a bit frustrated in that I felt that probably that product could have done more. There wasn't really much else out there.
Hmm.
And I thought I could turn my hand to try and do something better. It took me a long, long time to get around to actually doing that properly. And in 2017, I launched a product called DrumWriter. Um, and the idea with DrumWriter was to, I suppose, two things really, was to not have a piece of software that required something to be downloaded on a computer.
Ah,
So the
yeah.
idea was to make use of the web and the technology that the web allows us to use these days. So
Hmm.
very much a cloud-based product, but also a web-based product, which presents a lot of technical challenges, but I was able to overcome most of those. I then followed up DrumWriter. I thought I'm going to turn my hand to the bagpipes, and I basically cloned, if you like, DrumWriter and created a product called Bagpipe Writer.
Mm, yeah.
So I'd cut my teeth, if you like, on the technology that was involved in being able to build a drumming product and a piping product. And it made sense then to say, well, okay, let's bring it all together. So
I see.
I kind of started from scratch, if you like,
Yeah.
and decided to build Ensemble. And I launched Ensemble just about 3 years ago, almost to the day.
Wow.
Um,
Was it as long
um,
as that now? Wow.
it's amazing how long. Yeah, I kind of think that way as well. It's been a very rapid 3 years.
Wow.
The great thing about the product like Ensemble is that it gets updated almost continuously, and I think that's possibly the part of the reason why I got good feedback when we looked for nominations and whatever else for the Big
Yes.
Rab Show award. I update Ensemble almost on a daily basis, and some of that's bug fixes. Most of
Mm,
it's actually responding to feedback from people and making sure that the product is as good as it possibly can be. Um,
fantastic.
I,
Yeah.
I think the sort of key unique selling point beyond the web based approach is, well, I suppose, two things. One is playback. Obviously, having good playback in a music notation tool is really
Mm,
useful. It's not useful for everybody. Probably players at the higher levels probably don't really rely on that so much, but certainly as a teaching aid and things like that, it's really important. So I spent a long, long time getting that bit right. Featuring really good samples of snare drums and practice pads, and then obviously real bagpipes. I did small pipes last year as well as a
mm,
playback option, and we've got practice chanters and so on. So that's one of the key things. The other key thing is really around collaboration. So the way Ensemble works is that it's not just you go in and you write some scores. You can use it that way, of course, but it allows you to collaborate between different areas of the band. So you can have multiple subscriptions. You can have your pipe major or your pipe sergeant setting the scores, arranging the pipe scores, and then you can have the lead drummer come in behind on the same score, and then put the notation for the drum score behind that, the snare score, and you can do the same with bass and tenor as well. So.
I see.
And I think the final point on that is we have an edition that's called Core Edition, and the idea behind that is that the band leaders are collaborating to create scores, and then what they're then doing is allowing access to their core members, and they use that as a practice aid, and they use it as a rehearsal aid. And I think, to be honest, during the pandemic, obviously with social distancing and not being able to get together for practices, something like Ensemble's really come into its own. It's kind of almost what it was built for. So yeah, that's Ensemble.
Absolutely. I have to say, Kirk, I think that's really what kind of threw the vote for you guys this time, because I know so many people over the course of the pandemic who thought to themselves, I'm going to write this tune down. Now, I've got time, whenever you're looking at software and stuff, looking at Ensemble, it's so easy to use, and as you say, it's supported. So if you do notice a bug or something, then the next day it can be fixed, and it's things like that have really helped sell it for a piping audience, and because let's face it, all of us musicians, we're not tech people, when if we want to sit down and swear at a laptop for an hour and a half,
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting, Rab, as well, because it's maybe a bit of a generalization, but I think in the pipe band world, when it comes to tech, we are generally a little bit backwards. And I think obviously younger generations coming through would not be the case, but I think historically that's been the case, and I think it's been one of the challenges with getting a product like Ensemble out there, but also trying to persuade people, look, this is really easy to use. A lot of the tech that people are using, particularly for bagpipes, like Bagpipe Player or Bagpipe Music Writer, it's not a point and click type interface. You're having to write fancy codes to put embellishments on notes and all that sort of stuff. I've tried to combat that by saying, look, this is point and click. And I'm not saying I'm the only point and click bit of software out there for the pipe band world, just to be clear. I don't have exclusivity on that, but I certainly, the web-based approach is unique. The collaborative approach is unique as well. So take all those things together, and it's quite a strong proposition, pipe band editing tool and authoring tool.
Oh, indeed. I couldn't agree more. And if anything, I've been a bit of a fan. I've been poking around on the site and looking at all the different options and stuff. And there's something in here, as much as we're saying that this is, a pipe music software, but it's something that you could use for, as you say, writing out your snare scores, your tenor scores, even your bass. So you can get everything all within one application, really, for this. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing there as well, Rab, is that it's the only software out there that's dedicated to pipe bands that actually allows you to play pitched tenors as well. So
right, yes.
So you're getting you can actually, again, hence the name, you can get the full pipe band ensemble in terms of not only the notation but the playback as well. So you can get a nice overall sound. Okay, it's not a pipe band, but it's an approximation of what it will sound like. And I think it's probably the best we can hope for, because we're not trying to emulate exactly what a pipe band sounds like in the playback, but we're trying to give you a good indication of how certain pipe parts will harmonise, how certain tenor voices will complement the melody, periods of silence, dynamics, all that sort of stuff. It caters for all of that within certain parameters.
Fantastic. Yeah. So I dare say that this will be a tool that people will use just to experiment and have a bit of fun with. I wonder what this will sound like. I'll write it down and see. And
I think that's kind of the point, and certainly on the educational side, certainly for young people as well, the idea is that to learn through experience and through playing with things is really what we're trying to do here. So we've got some demo scores, take the demo score, rip it apart, start changing parts of it, try and understand, and I think part of the problem again in the pipe band world historically has been that we're not very good at writing things down, particularly drummers, snare drummers.
Definitely.
We're awful at it. I learned by mimicking what I was seeing across the table from my instructor.
Me too.
Nobody ever showed me a piece of music.
No.
And I had to educate myself, kicking and screaming, if you like, in order to do that. And I think. To be honest, a lot of bands now are actually, have education programs that do involve that kind of thing, and particularly the things like the RSPBA's outreach programs around the PDQB, and these kind of awards has made a big difference. But generally speaking, I still think there's a lot of work can be done in that area. And if something like Ensemble or other notation tools can help with that learning experience, then great.
That's it. See, I'm just like you. I learned across the table from someone, and music was never talked about. That's that thing that we just don't talk about notes on the page. This is what it sounds like. Play that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been one thing that I've been looking at. What does a Flam 5 look like on a bit of paper, or like a random McCure? What does it look like in the notes? So that's something, as you say, from an educational standpoint, it's invaluable. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can I bring you on now to this brand new product? And the whole reason I have you on the show this week, I'm so excited for this. As soon as I seen like the announcements and stuff you've been doing on social media, I was like, oh, that looks good. So tell us about pipe band scores.
Yeah, so this is an idea I've actually had for several years, but I suppose building Ensemble and maintaining Ensemble has taken up a huge amount of time. And I must stress that it's not quite a hobby for me, but it's not my full-time job either. So finding time to do these things is obviously always a challenge. But the idea behind pipe band scores was I think we have another sort of general problem in the pipe band world, and that is having access or easy access to either pipe scores or snare scores or bass and tenor scores. And I'm not saying they're not out there, because they are, and there's some very good resources. But there's no one single place you can go to that you can say, okay, this is going to have pretty much everything that I'm looking for or close to it. Yes. That was the first sort of thing. So the idea is that pipe band scores is a marketplace. Yeah, I think that's the other thing to stress. It's not me that's writing the scores. It's not me that's collating the scores. It's a marketplace, and anyone, and this is the fundamental point here, anyone, and I mean literally anyone, can contribute to that marketplace.
Wow.
And so, I don't really like this word, but I'm going to use it. It kind of democratizes the process of being able to get material out there. And okay, that comes with, I imagine, just naturally with variable quality to some extent. There will be that, but there's loads of people out there got really good exercise sheets and even just simple basic scores that are well enough written that they would want to share with the world, and they can charge money for it or they can offer it for free. And we don't make any stipulation about that. And I think the other cool thing about pipe band scores is it's also integrated with Ensemble, which you might expect. And so the idea is that the scores are written in Ensemble, and if you're an Ensemble subscriber and you buy or get a free download from here, it'll actually deliver the score directly into your Ensemble account, which means it goes back to the earlier point. If you want to rearrange it, if you want to take stuff out, if you want to simplify it, if you want to make it more difficult,
you can do that.
You can do that. Now, you don't exclusively need an Ensemble account to purchase anything from here. You'll still get delivered to you as a minimum a PDF and a sound file. In some cases, we have video, so we host online video related to whatever the material is. And there's an option for people to get things like bagpipe music writer files and stuff like that, BMW or BWW files. That's perfectly possible. But pipe band scores is really an opportunity to allow the community, if you like, to start contributing to an overall library of material that's available. For launch, I have pre-invited a number of people and asked them if they wanted to get involved. Rather than opening it up to everyone and anyone, because that's difficult to control with brand new software, so effectively we're beta testing, if you like, with that group of people. But I think for launch, we're going to have 250, 300 scores, something like that, across pipe, snare, bass, and tenor.
That's a lot. Yeah,
it's quite a lot. And a number of those, over 100 of those, are just traditional or royalty-free type pipe scores. But there's original material in there, so I'm talking about pipe scores that have been written. They're not rearrangements of other scores. They're completely original. We've got a lot of really good quality drum scores coming through, snare scores. We've got exercise sheets for piping, a whole host of stuff in there. So we've got breadth and depth. Quantity-wise, that's something that will come in time. But the idea is that we'll very quickly move once we open this out to anyone and everyone. I think we can have a library probably by the end of this year in excess of 1,000 scores, I would imagine.
Wow. Yeah, that's going to be a huge collection of music and a very valuable resource for folks as well. Because, as you know, and I know, the piping world changes. Each and every year, we seem to have new music, new ways of doing things. It could also be used as a kind of a time capsule as well. You know what I mean? The scores we write in 2022.
Yeah.
And we look at it in 10 years' time, we'll still be able to look back at, well, how did we used to play that? That kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's actually a conversation that I'm having with, and unfortunately, I can't name anyone just now, and I'm not deliberately being secretive here. It's
No.
I want to address that point you make there about time capsule. I'm in discussions with a leading drummer from a grade 1 band who has written many thousands of scores, and I can't say any more than that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't instigate this conversation, to be honest, but there's a possibility of getting every single one of those scores onto this platform.
Whoa.
And this is somebody that's been in pipe bands for, I don't know, probably 30, 40 years. So we need to watch the space on that one. It's. I can't guarantee that's going to happen because there's a lot of discussions to be had about there, and every single one of those scores has to be transcribed, which is not a trivial task. And somebody's got to do that. But that's a big possibility. And I'd say early days on that, which would be fantastic. And that's got nothing to do, I'm excited about that. Nothing to do with the fact that it makes my service more valuable or anything like that. To address exactly your point, Rab, around, it almost becomes an archive of this material. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about stuff that was written 20 years ago. And as you say, we know that styles change and our influences musically change. And if Pipe Band Scores is one place where we can start to gather that information and maybe even go backwards in time a little bit as well as forwards, I think that would be fantastic. And I think the key thing as well is that we're trying to offer a lot of material for free. Yeah. And the reason we're doing that is really because, well, one thing, I personally don't believe in me profiting from stuff that's royalty free now, because at the end of the day, if you want to download the score to Scotland the Brave, come and have it. Yeah,
there you go.
I'm not gonna charge you £1.50 for a Scotland the Brave score or a couple of dollars. That's not what I'm about. But if somebody's put time and effort into writing a drum score for, I don't know, Pipe Major Willie Gray or something like that, and they've spent several hours doing it, I think they're perfectly within their right to come along and say, this is my original composition, it's high quality, it's well done, and it's a couple of quid. Yeah. So I think that's really the point. And when it comes to stuff that's essentially in the public domain, we're not looking to make any profit.
Oh, indeed. I couldn't agree more. I think, if anything, it's a very exciting project, Kirk, and an incredible idea. So I do wish you well with this new venture. So have you any idea of when it will launch yet, or is that still to be confirmed?
It's still to be confirmed, Rab. We're probably going to be early to mid-February, thereabouts. It's just a case of I have to keep giving a push to the guys who are the contributors to get material up there. We're getting there. But I'm not their boss at the end of the day. I'm just trying to push them along. So, but the more stuff we've got for launch, I think the more successful it will be. So that's why I'd rather delay it if we need to get more material up there. But we're already up to 200 plus scores. If we can get to the 250, 300 mark by the end of the month, then we'll be looking to launch in early in February.
Excellent stuff. Well, keep us posted on any upcoming release dates and stuff. We'll definitely be interested in checking it out when it finally drops. So to remind folks again, the website is pipebandscores.com. Go and check it out. Yeah, just as if you've been watching the video, we've been kind of shuffling through the websites and stuff. So for those listening on the pod, go and check out the YouTube video because we were looking at the website. But also, take time out of your day and check out these websites. Seriously, Ensemble is a Big Rab Show award winner for a reason. It's a very useful tool. I have to say, Kirk, thank you so much for all of your hard work and putting this incredible thing in people's hands. It's just fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rob.
Indeed. So I'll hopefully catch up with you on a future show. Well, we'll be talking about your next venture. Who knows what that'll be?